Hello, 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 everyone. All right, today we are going on to a new chapter. We are on chapter 5. So, chapter 5 starts off with talking about integers. What are integers? It's a fancy word for saying positive and negative numbers. So, I need you all to go ahead and turn your book to page 346. That's where we're going to start today, on page 346. So that's page 346. All right, so on page 346, we're going to start off by discussing integers and how to write them. And we're keeping it simple today. It's all about how do we write them and what words mean positive and what words mean negative. And last, how do we graph them on a number line? Because eventually we're going to go to a coordinate plane, which is a big graph, and we need to be able to look at the number lines that are on there. So, integers. What are integers? Integers are positive whole numbers and their opposites. Okay. What does that mean? That means all these whole numbers in the positive and all those whole numbers that are in the negative. Because when I say and their opposites, if you think about it, what's the opposite of 2? -2. What's the opposite of -5? +5. So the opposite just means it is in the same direction, the same distance from 0, but in the opposite direction on the number line. So then we have negative numbers. Negative numbers are to the left of 0. Positive numbers are to the right of 0. The further you are in negative land, the smaller your number is. The further right you are on a number line, the larger your number is. Okay? 0 is not positive or negative. It is neutral. It doesn't get either one of those labels. All right. Over off here on the side in work zone, what I need you guys to do is we're going to end up coming up with a list. And this page is going to have our positive words. So I want you to write positive over here, because we're going to come up with a list of words that represent positive that maybe we don't always know. All right. Let's scroll down here. Okay, so let's talk about what we're asking you to do today. Today we're asking you to write an integer. Please don't make it harder than it is. Writing an integer is just simply taking the words a 10-yard loss and making it into -10. Because if it's a loss, it's negative. So a 10-yard loss, to write that as an integer, I simply write -10. Okay, explaining the meaning of 0 is simply saying that right here, for instance, it says, because it represents a loss, the integer is -10. We knew that. In football, the integer 0 represents no yards lost or no yards gained. So when someone asks you to explain the meaning of 0, we simply would say that a loss represents negative. Okay. The other examples they give us is 4 inches of rain above normal. Okay. Well, above tells me to use, I'm just trying to get my highlighter here. Okay. Above tells me that it's going to be positive. So my number integer that I would write would just simply be 4. A $48 deposit. So again, I'm just looking at this word deposit here, okay? Deposit would tell me that would be a positive as well. So my integer that I would write for a deposit would be +48. So the integer would be 48. Okay. In this situation, the integer 0 represents that I have no money in the bank. Now, I want to write this word down. Deposit is like if I go to a bank and I put money into my account. So therefore, my account goes up. So right here where I have that positive words, deposit is one that we're going to write on here. So deposit. Go ahead and write that word there because we're going to want to remember that deposit means positive. All right, I want you to go ahead and do these two as examples. What integer would you write? You don't have to explain the meaning. Just go ahead. What integer would you write for a gain of 2? And then what integer would you write for 10 degrees below 0? Correct. You should have written 2, and you should have written negative 10. That's all we're doing there. You're simply just taking the words and putting it as a number. All right, let's turn the page. Okay, at the top of this page, we start off with graphing. Graphing on a number line. The biggest thing that you need to understand is, do you see how the dot is actually on the number line? That's really important for us to notice. The second thing that I want you to notice is that from 0, when I count negatives, it goes up that way. So we need to make sure that we don't accidentally flip those. So here, if someone asked me to graph -7, I just put a dot on the number line at -7. Someone were to ask me to graph -4, 2, and -1, I would just put the dot on the number line. What happens when my number line is sideways? Nothing. You still do the same exact thing. All right, why don't you go ahead and give graph C and D a shot. Graph C is located right here. You can graph D right here. And let me know what you get. All right. You should have done the -3, 0, -2, and 4. We should have -3, 0, -2, and 4. And then for 8, -6, -9, and 5, we should have 8, -6, -9 is not on there. So we're going to put it in the middle of 8 and 9 because that's where it would be located. And then +5, again, is in between 4 and 6. And that's the other thing we need to understand is if we don't have the line, if the number is not actually a notch on the number line, we estimate where it would be. All right, let's go ahead and move on, turn the page. And what I want you guys to do is I want you to please do me, I want you to go to this guided practice right here. I want you to, you don't have to explain the meaning. I want you to write the integer for number 1. I want to write the integer for number 2. And I want you to graph 3 and 4. When you graph 3 and 4, remember, the thing you want to remember is that, so if I think about it, if 0 was right here, this would be 1, this would be 2. This would be -1, this would be -2. Sorry about my pen not showing up too much. Here, if I have 0, this would be 1, that would be 2. This would be -1, this would be -2. Remember, you always start from 0 to figure out which way you go. And then last but not least, I want you to go ahead and try number 5. This one's a little different. Notice it goes all the way up to 20, and it goes all the way down to -15. That means that I probably should count by 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20. So 5, 10, 15, 20. -5, -10, -15, -20. And go ahead and graph your situation.